The disappearance on Deck 9. The sun was just rising over the Mediterranean when something strange happened on Deck 9 of the luxury cruise ship Queen Celeste. The light touched everything in gold and red. Bianca Porter stood quietly near the railing, her silk robe catching the wind. She stared out at the open sea. Down below, crew members were gathered around a lifeboat. One of them pointed at dark red stains that hadn't been there the night before. Another whispered into his radio, his face pale. The smell of blood hung in the air, and soon passengers gathered, whispering about a loud thud they'd heard in the middle of the night. And just like that, one man was missing. Kareem Porter, Bianca's husband. A well-known fitness coach back home, he had vanished. Was it a terrible accident or something worse? This was supposed to be their honeymoon, but it quickly became a nightmare. And now everyone was wondering, how well do we really know the person we sleep beside? Welcome to Guilty Whispers, where we tell stories of secrets hiding in plain sight. Tonight's story is about how a dream vacation turned into a murder mystery when a newlywed husband disappeared from a cruise ship and his wife claimed she couldn't remember a thing. Bianca told the crew she had taken a sleeping pill that night and didn't know anything. She looked confused, even shocked, but cameras on the ship later showed her moving around in the early hours. Not sleeping, but walking the halls, very alert. Text messages found later told a darker story, one of planning and deception. So the question is, if the person closest to you became the main suspect, would you believe them or trust the facts? Cruise ships in international waters are tricky places for justice. Some crimes slip through cracks, others are never really investigated. But this case, it started with a small change in Kareem's life insurance paperwork, done just weeks before the wedding. That tiny change may have started a deadly chain reaction. Some say Kareem fell, some say he was pushed. Only one person knows for sure, and she hasn't said a word since. Background: Kareem Porter's life. Kareem Porter was a rising star in Atlanta's fitness world. At just 34, he owned several successful gyms and had built a reputation for helping the community, mentoring young athletes, offering scholarships, and promoting healthy living. Friends called him a natural leader, the kind of person whose laugh filled the room. But Kareem had one flaw. He always saw the best in people, even when they didn't deserve it. His last relationship had nearly ruined him financially. So when he met Bianca Caldwell, he thought he'd finally found someone strong and stable. Bianca was a trauma therapist with a polished background, a doctorate from Emory, a private practice in an upscale Atlanta neighborhood, and high-profile clients. She was smart, calm, and seemed to understand everyone. But those close to her said she never talked much about herself. At their wedding, no family showed up for Bianca. She said her parents had passed away. She never mentioned siblings or old friends. Her apartment had no childhood photos, no personal items from the past. Some people later said it was like she didn't exist before a certain age. Could that have been the first red flag? Their relationship moved fast. Within 6 months of meeting at a wellness retreat, Kareem proposed during a weekend in Savannah. He believed he had found someone who truly understood him, but someone was hiding something. And soon that secret would lead to one man missing, and a murder investigation with no body, no confession, and no clear answers. To friends and family, Kareem and Bianca's relationship moved fast, maybe too fast. Within months, she had become involved in his wellness brand, offering advice and insights for his programs. On paper, they looked like a dream team, the fitness expert and the psychologist. But Kareem's sister, Sierra, had doubts. It all seemed a little too perfect, she said later, like it was planned. After the tragedy, Sierra found a journal in Kareem's desk. One page read, "B says I rush into things. Maybe she's right. But when something feels this good, why wait?" He had written that just 2 weeks before he proposed. A quiet reminder of how much Kareem believed in love, even when it might not have been wise. Their finances reflected Kareem's caution after a tough breakup years earlier. They signed a prenup to protect his business, kept most of their accounts separate, and only shared one joint investment fund, money set aside for a future wellness center they wanted to open together. Both of them also took out life insurance, $750,000 each, which their advisor said was normal for people with their income. But one detail stood out. Bianca had asked to include a special clause in Kareem's policy for accidents that happened at sea. It seemed small at the time, but later, that one change would raise big questions. The wedding was held in Charleston, a big event featured in fitness magazines and blogs. Around 200 guests showed up. Kareem's family filled table after table, while Bianca's side was quiet. Just a few people she said were old college friends. No parents, no relatives. Just names no one seemed to know. For their honeymoon, Kareem booked a luxury 2-week Mediterranean cruise on the Queen Celeste. His last social media post showed a smiling photo of the two of them. Mediterranean magic for 2 weeks with my queen. Honeymoon countdown 1. Comment on that post stood out later. Enjoy every moment, brother. Life is short. Make it count. It was from Devin Wallace. At the time, Devin and his younger brother Trey were trying to keep their failing supplement business, Apex Nutrition, from going under. Their company was deep in debt, and they were behind on rent for both their office and production space. With no options left, they hoped Kareem would invest and help them survive. But Kareem wasn't convinced. He had always been cautious with business deals. Devin had joked to a friend before the trip, "He's all business when he's on land. Maybe a little sun and some drinks at sea will change his mind." What Kareem didn't know was that Trey, the younger Wallace brother, had developed an unhealthy interest in Bianca. He had met her briefly at a fitness event and had been messaging her ever since. Later, when police examined Bianca's phone, they found weeks of hidden conversations between her and Trey. In one, Trey wrote, "I'd do anything to help my brother save this business. Anything." Bianca replied, "Sometimes the right opportunity comes when you least expect it." Filling out the picture was Kimora Jenkins, a travel influencer with 500,000 followers. She knew the Wallace brothers from a past promotion and joined the cruise for networking and vacation. On the second night, she posted a photo at the captain's welcome dinner. Kareem, Bianca, Devin, and Trey were all smiling with champagne glasses raised. Her caption read, "They're gorgeous, successful, and just married. Near our couple goals." In the background of the photo, something eerie, Trey wasn't looking at the camera. His eyes were locked on Bianca. At the time, no one noticed. But later, that small detail would say a lot. The first 2 days of the cruise felt like a dream to most people on board. Kareem was outgoing and friendly, making friends easily and joining port excursions with enthusiasm. Bianca was quieter. She liked staying on their private balcony with a book or going to the spa. In the evenings, they had dinner together, but Kareem often continued to the casino afterward while Bianca went back to their cabin. By day 3, cracks had started to show. Security cameras caught them arguing on the promenade deck. Bianca pointed at his drink. Kareem shook his head, clearly annoyed. Then they walked away in opposite directions. Kareem headed for the casino where Devin and Trey waited. Bianca went back toward their suite. Less than 14 hours later, Kareem Porter would be dead. That day, while the ship was docked in Santorini, they took separate tours. They met again for a late lunch at a cliffside cafe. Other passengers nearby noticed the tension. One woman remembered hearing phrases like, "We need to talk about," and "this isn't what I expected." When Kareem realized they were being watched, he ended the conversation and they returned to the ship separately. That afternoon, Kareem met privately with the Wallace brothers in the ship's business center. A crew member brought them coffee and later recalled that after about 90 minutes, Trey stormed out. Kareem and Devin shook hands, but not warmly. Later, an unfinished email found on Kareem's laptop revealed the truth. He had decided not to invest in Apex Nutrition. The email read, "I value our friendship, but I can't put my reputation behind products without clinical validation." The financials showed deeper issues than just a cash problem. "I'd be throwing good money after bad." That decision was a death blow to the Wallace brothers' business, and, some believe, the final spark that led to Kareem's murder. That night, passengers noticed Trey looking tense and angry. At the bar, someone overheard him say to Devin, "2 years wasted on that arrogant," before stopping mid-sentence. A bartender told investigators that Devin ordered only water for himself, but kept buying strong drinks for Kareem and Trey. "The older one was keeping his head clear while encouraging the others to drink," the bartender said. "I've worked bars for 12 years. I know when someone's trying to get someone drunk." Kareem's final night began at 10 p.m. He joined the Wallace brothers at the casino. Security footage showed them at a blackjack table. Devin signed for drinks but barely touched his own. Kareem drank heavily. At 11:15 p.m., Bianca appeared briefly in the casino. She wore white linen pants and a black silk top. She stood at a distance before approaching the group. Passengers nearby heard fragments about promises and opportunities. After a tense exchange, she left. One witness later said, "She whispered something in Kareem's ear, and his whole face changed. He looked confused, maybe scared. Then she just smiled and walked away." At 11:45 p.m., Bianca sent Kareem a text, "Taking a sleeping pill. Please don't wake me when you come in." That message would later be used as proof that she was asleep during the key hours of the night. But cameras told a different story. At 12:30 a.m., she was caught on surveillance leaving their cabin in dark pants and a hoodie, heading toward the upper deck lounge. She was clearly awake and active. Meanwhile, Kareem was still in the casino, visibly drunk and losing at roulette. By 1:20 a.m., he was slurring his words. Devin, still sober, stayed close. At 2:15 a.m., a cocktail server heard Devin tell Trey, "Just stick to the plan." Another hour. At 2:45 a.m., Kareem could barely stand. Trey suggested they get some fresh air. Cameras caught the three men leaving together, Kareem leaning heavily on Devin. One camera captured their final exchange. Devin, "Don't worry. You just need some air." Kareem, "Something's wrong. Doesn't feel right." Trey, "Trust us, man. We've got you." At 3:05 a.m., Bianca's keycard was used to open their cabin door, just for a few seconds. Then at 3:19 a.m., Kareem's keycard was also used, but there was no footage of him returning. Someone else had his card. At 3:38 a.m., surveillance cameras captured Bianca walking into the starboard lounge on deck 8. She appeared slightly disoriented, but not fully incapacitated, as she would later claim. The final confirmed sighting of Kareem came at 3:50 a.m., when grainy security footage showed him with Devin and Trey Wallace near the lifeboats on deck 9. Though the lighting was poor, Kareem could be seen arguing with Trey while Devin stood by, silently observing. That was the last time anyone saw Kareem Porter alive. At 4:12 a.m., multiple passengers reported hearing a loud thud. A couple staying near the Porter's suite told security they'd heard an argument approximately 40 minutes earlier. A man's voice had said, "What did you give me?" Followed by a panicked, "I can't." But perhaps the most damning account came from night steward Miguel Reyes. At around 4:20 a.m., he noticed a woman matching Bianca's description near the same area where Kareem had last been seen. According to Reyes, she was whispering, "Don't touch him," to someone out of sight before quickly walking away when she realized she was being watched. Despite this, Bianca maintained she had been unconscious the entire night due to her prescription sleeping pill. She claimed she had sleepwalked to the starboard lounge, where crew members found her at 6:15 a.m., confused and with an unexplained bruise on her arm. "I took my pill and went to bed," she told ship security. "I have no memory of anything until they woke me up in that lounge." Her voice broke. "Where's Kareem? Has something happened to Kareem?" She looked terrified, eyes wide with concern. To some, she seemed the picture of a distraught wife. But to others, her performance felt too perfect, too calculated. Later that morning, bloodstains were discovered on the canopy of a lifeboat, positioned directly beneath the last known location of Kareem. Meanwhile, the Wallace brothers were notably absent. They didn't respond to multiple calls to their suite and were not seen until nearly noon, almost 6 hours after Kareem had been reported missing. What really happened during those crucial hours between 3:50 a.m. and dawn? Did Kareem simply fall overboard in a drunken accident? Or was this the culmination of a meticulously planned betrayal? The investigation into Kareem Porter's disappearance was flawed from the start, hampered by layers of international bureaucracy. The Queen Celeste was registered in Panama and sailing in international waters between Greece and Turkey. That raised immediate jurisdictional issues. Should the investigation fall under Panamanian law as the flag state, Greek or Turkish law as the nearest coastal states, or American jurisdiction, given that Kareem was a U.S. citizen? In the end, the initial responsibility fell to the ship's onboard security team, led by former police officer Miguel Sanchez. But as maritime investigator Sonia Bledsoe later explained, Cruise lines prioritize two things in the wake of onboard incidents: maintaining passenger comfort and protecting their brand. Criminal investigation comes a distant third. This was made clear in how evidence was handled. Despite the discovery of blood on the lifeboat canopy, the area was scrubbed clean within hours. Standard cruise protocol, supposedly to avoid alarming other guests. Kareem and Bianca's suite received only a superficial examination before it was prepared for the next round of passengers at the next port. Even more suspicious was a camera malfunction on Deck 9, precisely in the area where Kareem was last seen. Footage clearly showed him entering the deck at 3:50 a.m., but the minutes that followed were lost. The cruise line blamed a routine system reset. A coincidence? I don't think so, said a former FBI agent hired by Kareem's family. Out of hundreds of cameras, the one that malfunctions is the one recording a possible murder scene? The odds are astronomical. Inside the cabin, physical evidence painted a troubling picture. A chair knocked over near the balcony door, a broken wine glass on the carpet, and Kareem's wedding ring. Oddly found not in the room or on his body, but later discovered on the floor of the ship's casino. His phone was never recovered. Toxicology tests on a wine glass in the suite revealed high levels of alcohol and traces of zolpidem, the active ingredient in Bianca's sleeping medication. When combined, the two substances cause extreme disorientation and loss of motor control within 30 minutes. Bianca admitted the zolpidem was hers, but insisted she had taken it with water in the bathroom, not alcohol. Her interviews with ship security struck many as strange, alternating between eerie calmness and dramatic outbursts. She told them Kareem sometimes reacted poorly to alcohol, suggesting what happened may have been an accident. But none of Kareem's friends or family had ever seen signs of that, despite his frequent social drinking at work events. As for the Wallace brothers, their own stories didn't hold up. At first, they claimed they'd walked Kareem back to his suite around 3 a.m., but this was disproven by footage showing all three men on Deck 9 at 3:50 a.m. Trey's alibi for 4 a.m., being asleep, was contradicted by a passenger's photo showing him standing on deck at 4:05 a.m., tense and scanning the horizon. Devon's background in pharmaceuticals suddenly became relevant. The drug and alcohol combination found in Kareem's system would mimic heavy drunkenness to casual observers, masking the symptoms of a more sinister condition. Later that day, Kimora Jenkins overheard Devon warning Trey, "Don't say anything, no matter what. You know what's at stake." When Kimora reported the comment to security, Devon had already approached her saying, "A gentleman went overboard. It's very sad, but it's best not to spread rumors or speculate for everyone's sake." Despite the mounting red flags, by that afternoon, the ship's captain issued a public announcement. "A passenger incident occurred last night. We have followed all maritime search protocols, but regrettably, we must now focus on supporting the family during this difficult time." Bianca was quietly moved to a private area and assigned grief counselors. Arrangements were made for her early disembarkation at the next port. Before leaving, she made a peculiar request. She insisted on personally retrieving her laptop from the ship's safe, checking its contents carefully before tucking it into her carry-on. Kareem's disappearance could easily have become just another overlooked tragedy at sea, one of nearly 200 passengers who have vanished from cruise ships since 2000, many with little to no formal investigation. But this case didn't fade into obscurity, thanks to his younger sister, Sierra Porter. She refused to accept the vague, sterile version of events that had been fed to the family. They think that just because it happened in international waters, no one will ask questions, Sierra told a group of reporters. They're wrong. While Bianca quietly returned to Atlanta and accepted the cruise line's narrative of a tragic accident, Sierra stayed behind in Athens, knocking on doors and chasing accountability. "I stood in a Greek police station for 6 hours, she recalled, tears streaking down her face. They kept telling me it wasn't their jurisdiction. No one wanted to take responsibility for finding out what happened to my brother." Her determination eventually led her to Sonia Bledsoe, a former maritime law enforcement officer with years of experience investigating cruise ship disappearances. When Sierra arrived at Bledsoe's office, she brought a small zippered pouch with her brother's personal effects. She gently placed Kareem's wedding ring on the desk. "He wouldn't have taken this off willingly," Sierra whispered, "not after everything he said in his vows." Bledsoe nodded solemnly, her eyes drifting to a large wall map filled with red pins marking dozens of disappearances at sea. "It's the perfect place to commit the perfect crime," Bledsoe said. "International waters create a vacuum. No single nation takes ownership. Most people don't realize that until they're already trapped in it." The first major red flag emerged when Sierra gained access to Kareem's financial records. 6 weeks before the cruise, his life insurance policy had been modified to include a specific maritime accident clause, an odd and highly specific addition that ensured payout even if the body was never recovered. The request for that policy change hadn't come from Kareem. It had come from Bianca. Insurance investigators look for three things: means, opportunity, and motive, Bledsoe explained. That $750,000 payout provides a very clear motive. The cruise itself offered the opportunity. Now they just had to prove the means. 2 months into the investigation, a breakthrough arrived. A digital forensics expert recovered deleted messages from Kareem's cloud backups. One of them stood out, sent from an unregistered number the night before he disappeared. "He's going to black out soon. Make sure it looks messy." The number was traced to a prepaid phone purchased in Atlanta 3 days before the cruise. The timing matched the Wallace brothers' departure date. Then came a more devastating discovery. There had been financial connections between Bianca and Trey Wallace well before she ever met Kareem. Over a 6-month period, Bianca had made a series of small transfers to Trey, listed as consulting fees for wellness programming, through her private practice. The payments stopped abruptly right around the time she began dating Kareem. "She knew them before," Sierra said, stunned. "She was working with them before she even met my brother." 6 months after Kareem vanished, a witness finally came forward. Kimora Jenkins contacted Sierra directly and shared footage from the ship's late-night entertainment event. In it, Bianca and Trey could be seen in an intense discussion at 1:15 a.m., the same time Bianca claimed to have been asleep in her cabin under the influence of prescription sleep medication. But Kimora had seen something even more damning. "I couldn't sleep and went out on deck for some air. Around 4:30, she told Sierra. "That's when I saw Trey near the railing where Kareem was last seen. He looked scared." Then she saw Bianca. She came up from the stairwell. She wasn't dazed or confused like she claimed. She was sharp, focused. Kimora paused, her voice trembling. "I watched her wipe something off her hands with a towel. Then she looked straight at me." She looked away. "That's why I didn't say anything at first. I was terrified." While investigators tried to piece together what had happened, Bianca moved swiftly to claim Kareem's life insurance. The company initially flagged the request for review, but with no clear evidence of foul play, and the cruise line's official report listing Kareem's death as an accidental fall, the claim was eventually approved. What no one knew at the time was that, months before the cruise, Bianca had quietly opened a shell corporation in the Cayman Islands, using her maiden name. Within days of the payout, the $750,000 was funneled through a maze of accounts and landed in this offshore entity. Just 2 weeks later, she filed for a legal name change, citing fears of a stalker. With her insider knowledge of victim support systems, she knew exactly how to frame the request for maximum privacy. Under her new identity, Yasmin Caldwell, Bianca secured residency in Turks and Caicos, where the paper trail grew cold. The Wallace brothers also vanished. They shut down their Atlanta apartment, dissolved Apex Nutrition, and cut off contact with former associates. But 8 months after Kareem's disappearance, a new supplement company appeared in San Diego, Peak Performance Nutrition. Its products were nearly identical to Apex's, just rebranded. Though the company was registered under new names, the website revealed photos of Devin and Trey, both sporting new hairstyles and using aliases. Then Bledsoe's forensics team uncovered the most damning piece yet, a deleted email recovered from Bianca's old cloud account, dated 2 weeks before the cruise. "Once everything is resolved as discussed, you'll have the full funding package we talked about. New brand, new start. Just make sure there are no loose ends." Still, prosecution remained out of reach. Without a body and with physical evidence largely compromised, district attorneys in multiple jurisdictions refused to press charges. The case straddled international boundaries, legal gray zones, and lacked the definitive proof needed to stand up in court. 18 months after Kareem's disappearance, Yasmin Caldwell reemerged publicly, launching an exclusive wellness retreat in Turks and Caicos. It catered to the wealthy, offering luxury detoxes and personal transformation workshops. Social media posts showed a sun-kissed Bianca meditating on white sand beaches, her appearance subtly transformed, lighter hair, a leaner frame, and the serenity of someone who had shed her past. Scrolling through the retreat's Instagram feed one evening, Sierra froze. Bianca, or Yasmin now, was smiling in a photo, wearing a necklace Sierra recognized instantly. That was his wedding gift to her, she whispered. She's wearing it. She's wearing his gift, while living the life his death paid for. But Sierra wasn't finished. She established the Kareem Porter Foundation, focused on bringing fitness and mentorship programs to underserved youth. She also became a fierce advocate for cruise ship reform, testifying before Congress on the lack of accountability in maritime investigations. My brother didn't just die, she told lawmakers. He was erased by a system built to protect profits and by a woman who treated him like a means to an end. Kareem Porter's disappearance left behind far more questions than answers. What began as a tragic incident at sea unfolded into what appeared to be a sophisticated, premeditated conspiracy. The insurance changes, the offshore accounts, the coordinated timing, all of it pointed to something carefully planned, not accidental. Detective Sonia Bledsoe, who had dedicated over 2 years to investigating the case, offered this final judgment. This wasn't a mistake, it was calculated. Whether she acted alone or used others to do the dirty work, Bianca walked off that ship freer than she'd ever been. She didn't just end Kareem's life, she used his death to fund the life she always wanted. Summary and conclusion: the disappearance of Kareem Porter, a respected fitness entrepreneur with a promising future, was initially dismissed as a tragic accident at sea, one more statistic in the long, troubling list of people who vanish from cruise ships each year. But as the layers of his life unraveled, a chilling picture emerged, one of betrayal, manipulation, and a calculated plan executed with near-perfect precision. What began as a romantic luxury cruise ended in silence, suspicion, and a haunting absence. Kareem's wife Bianca, now known as Yasmin Caldwell, swiftly relocated, reinvented herself, and rebuilt her life on tropical shores, using funds traced directly to Kareem's death. The Wallace brothers, too, vanished and resurfaced under new identities, leaving behind the failed business and connections that may have tied them to something far darker. Despite extensive evidence, legal gaps across international waters, and the absence of a body made prosecution difficult, allowing those suspected of orchestration to walk free. Yet Kareem's sister Sierra refused to let her brother be forgotten. Through her relentless fight for justice, advocacy for maritime reform, and the establishment of a foundation in his name, she gave voice to the silenced and brought renewed scrutiny to a system too often exploited by those who know its weaknesses. This case reminds us, justice isn't always found in courtrooms. Sometimes it's carved out through persistence, truth-telling, and the refusal to let a loved one's story be buried with silence. Summary and conclusion: the disappearance of Kareem Porter, a respected fitness entrepreneur with a promising future, was initially dismissed as a tragic accident at sea, one more statistic in the long, troubling list of people who vanish from cruise ships each year. But as the layers of his life unraveled, a chilling picture emerged, one of betrayal, manipulation, and a calculated plan executed with near-perfect precision. To our loyal readers and listeners, thank you. Your continued support, feedback, and engagement are what keep this platform alive. We are deeply grateful for every time you choose to spend your time with us. Whether you read, listen, share, or comment, you are part of a community that believes in truth, accountability, and amplifying the voices of those who can no longer speak for themselves. Disclaimer: this content is intended for educational and informational purposes only. While the events, names, and sequences presented are inspired by real cases and investigative research, certain details may be altered or dramatized for clarity and narrative structure. We do not intend to accuse, defame, or harm any individual or entity. All viewers are encouraged to conduct their own research and approach true crime content with empathy and a critical mind. Thank you, and keep reading our content on this true crime channel. Stay cool and safe till next time.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more